Right, we are live now, ma'am. Over to you.
Good evening. I'm going to start with a poem. The mother's heart, the hero's will, the sweetness of the southern breeze, the sacred charm and strength that dwell on Aryan altar, flaming free. All these be yours, and many more. No ancient soul could dream before. Be thou to India's future son, the mistress, servant, and friend in one. This poem is called a benediction. This was Swami Vivekananda's parting gift to Sister Nivedita. And it seems every word of the above poem entirely suited to our esteemed guest today. She's a writer, classical singer, a historian, an academician, and was the former director of Rabindranath Tagore Center in Kolkata. Also a trained singer of Rabindra Sangeet and songs of Qazi Nazrul Islam. She has many publications to her credit. Gandhi, Nehru, and Bose, The Making of the Modern Indian Mind. Jawaharlal Nehru, The Hindu Code Bill. Rabindranath Tagore, The Singer and His Songs. Margot, Sister Nivedita of Swami Vivekanand, married to a foreign service officer and mother of two sons. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am, today. And this online space has really handicapped us to welcome you with few flowers or a cup of tea. But what we do have is a heart full of gratitude that you could take out time to speak to us today. A very warm welcome to you.
Thank you so much, Nisha. It's a great pleasure for me to be on your platform. And this is, as you said, this is the new normal nowadays. But I'm just recalling a year ago, we met in Belfast. And
Yes.
who would have ever thought that a year from then we would be in this lockdown scenario? And it's a strange, surreal world that we are in.
Exactly.
The poem that you recited was written by Swami Vivekananda, in which he talks about a mother's courage and a hero's will. Um, and I really think that today, in lockdown situation, most mothers and daughters all over are battling with a strange scenario at home and summoning all their willpower to face
Yes.
situation with men at home, husbands at home, children at home, all on online, and
Oh, yes.
it's a very strange, it's taxing their patience and their resilience. And I think every woman is being taxed for her inner strength is being called for.
Yes. Tell me
So,
about it, ma'am. I have two little daughters. One is teenager and one is 7 year old. So tell me about it.
oh, I know my grandchildren are exactly the same. I have an older
Yes.
grandchild who's going to enter the portals of university and undecided about what's going to happen. And I have a
All
younger
right.
grandchild battling with, being at home all the time. So I know.
Okay.
But I think all of you
Okay.
are doing splendidly. So,
Yes.
yeah.
So, ma'am, talking about the digital space these days, I mean, the digital portal has become the new canvas and stage for our artist community. So, how is the writer and the singer in you dealing with this, new state of affairs?
Well, actually, for a writer and a singer, it's been wonderful to be at home with one's moments to ruminate and to write and to sing. So the COVID situation hasn't really impacted that because
Yes.
a writer and a singer always finds moments of aloneness very rewarding, unless you're giving public lectures or concerts, which is a different thing.
Yes.
But what
Yes.
has actually happened is the feeling of being in house arrest, the feeling of being unable to go out,
Yes.
that has been extremely troublesome. And I think all of us share that kind of feeling. And so we have to
Yes.
reinvent ourselves. But there's a flip
Yes.
side to this whole thing. And the flip side is that, see, in our growing years, we had no television, there were no mobile phones. So connectivity or connecting with each other was not good enough. But now we are connected. See, we are connected. And although
Yes.
it's true that sometimes the connection breaks down and the towers interfere with our connectivity, but it's at
Yes.
least this being connected is now the new norm. People will increasingly work out of homes, children will work online, probably there'll be less traffic on the road. Who knows? We have
Yes.
to keep reinventing ourselves to the new realities.
Yes, and we can already see the blue skies and the birds chirping. So it's
That's
beautiful how nature is reacting to the new normal.
quite
So,
right.
ma'am, I really feel that destiny plays a very important role when two people meet. And it was such a huge coincidence when I met you in Belfast that day at a Jaipur Literary Festival. And you know what? I was already researching and discussing my next script for my play with Maliki or Dorothy. And there you were. I was meeting you, who is an authority, herself authority over the life sketch of Sister Nivedita. So it was really surreal for me to meet you there and to speak to you that day. So that day I bought this book and uh, I read this book, Margot, and you have had sketched a disciples characteristic out of the shadow of her spiritual mentor. So I would like to ask you that why did you plan to write on Sister Nivedita? How much time, went into it, and how much time it took to go on the shelves?
Well, I mean, to begin with, Sister Nivedita is not all that well known in
Yeah.
India. And
Yes.
a lot of people have asked me when I was writing the book that is she sort of connected with Mother Teresa or something like that? I mean, people really don't know. She
Yeah.
died in 1911, and her
11.
cenotaph in Darjeeling, which is where she died, says, "Here lies Sister Nivedita, who gave her all to India." And I think it's a shame that we know so little about her. What got me interested, I mean, I knew she was the disciple of Swami Vivekananda. That's what many people know, but nothing
Yeah.
more than that. So, what got me interested was that I was in Kolkata as
Gee.
the regional director of ICCR, and we were celebrating in 2013 Swami Vivekananda's 150th
Okay.
uh, anniversary. And Ramakrishna Mission had taken over the whole job of putting up an exhibition, an art
Yeah.
exhibition. It was an art
Okay.
exhibition, and I said to myself, how is that connected? I mean, how is it relevant to Swami Vivekananda? And they told me, the monks told me, that Swami Vivekananda and much more importantly, Sister Nivedita were the great promoters of Indian art. So I came
Yes.
back and I did a lot of research and I discovered that art to Sister Nivedita was a symbol. It was a symbol because she came to India at the time when we were fighting our battle for freedom. And she really adopted India as her own home. And she wanted to tell young artists that look, I mean, don't look at the Western example
Hmm.
of Western art as your example. You've got a rich indigenous tradition of Indian art. So go and find that. And she actually got people like Nandalal Bose, Abanindranath Tagore,
Hmm.
all these people, she made them go to Ajanta Ellora to see for
Yeah.
themselves the richness of Indian art. And that was the beginning of the Bengal School of Art, Shantiniketan
Yes.
School of Painting. So that was quite extraordinary. So that then I
Yes.
thought I should research into her. And what I found were volumes of letters that she wrote to two of her very close woman friends, Sarah Bull and Josephine McLeod. And my
Yes.
book, or my whole understanding of Nivedita, is from a very human, personal angle. It's a woman's story.
Yes.
And she
Yep.
pours out her heart in these letters, which you miss if you read her collected works. You don't see this human
Yes.
element from her. That's more
True.
academic. So that's what
True.
kept me going. I was fascinated
Yes.
by her story unfolding in these letters.
And I especially love the part where you have actually touched the woman part of her side, because when she expressed her love to Yum Yum in her letters, that about Vivekananda and how she restrained herself to the vow of celibacy, it was so beautifully expressed in your book. And ma'am, Sister Nivedita has done a lot for our young girls in Kolkata. She opened up a school and everything, and she was a progressive nationalist, as we all know. So, do you think her ideologies, her ideas are still relevant to our youth and our girls, that how they're shaping up and how they're dreaming? So do you think her ideas are still relevant in shaping up our youth and our girls today?
I think more than ever, her message, her message of India as a pluralist, inclusive, secular society, that was her message. We
Yeah,
forget that often, we think of Vivekananda being the great Hindu ideologue, but
yeah,
Vivekananda's whole philosophy was very wide. And Sister Nivedita, who was really the spokesperson of Swami Vivekananda, in all platforms, she spoke about this inclusive nature of the Indian identity, which we need to keep repeating. And I must, if I will, I can just read out a little bit from her
please,
own writing, where
please,
she
ma'am.
says, yes, she says, if you want to know the real India, dream the dreams of Akbar and Ashoka.
Hmm.
Patriotism is not learned in books. It is a feeling which seizes the whole being. It is at once the blood and the marrow. It is in the air one breathes and the sound one hears. So, this
Beautiful.
is something that, of course, children today, people of India today, need to keep reiterating all the time.
Yes, yes, perfect. Uh, Ma'am, Nivedita said that although our Gita is centered in Hinduism, but still the book has a universal message. So she considered Gita to have an overwhelming vitality for the emerging nationalist movement. How true and best suited are these observations to the present Indian times? I mean, globalization, westernization, digitizations, these are the terms that we are totally clouded off these days. But do you think the speciality or the uniqueness of being an Indian lies in our deep rooted culture, which he always talked about?
Yeah, I think she says something rather wonderful. She really studied Indian mythology, and she says that the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, and I quote her, are outstanding educational agencies of Indian life.
Hmm.
And that's so true. If you academically study Ramayana and Mahabharata, and you see what society at that time was, you see how liberal many of their attitudes were, the position
Yeah,
of women.
yeah,
It really is a huge, what shall I say, understanding of the basis or the roots of our civilization. And it's in that context she spoke of Gita, and where
yeah.
again she says that, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, when Krishna is giving his sermon to Arjuna, in many ways it's almost resonant with the sermon on the Sea of Galilee by
Hmm.
Jesus Christ. Because
Yeah.
basically what they are saying is that every man has a right to work, but has no right to its consequences. What a wonderful thought.
Beautiful. Yes,
And
yes.
that's something we
That's
have to keep remembering all the time. So that's the universal message. But we somehow miss that kernel, if you will, in our Hindu philosophy because we get so tied down to all the rituals and all the peripheral, um, you know, um, aspects
hmm,
that take our
hmm.
mind away from the rich kernel that we have in our own philosophy.
Yes, definitely. And ma'am, when this lockdown happened, I was very happy that all this Ramayana, Mahabharata started again on TV, televisions. Like I remember sitting with my father, and he made it a point that I should see Ramayana, Mahabharata, Chanakya, everything sitting right next to him. So I told my kids that this is a story which is very fascinating, and you can ask us whenever you don't understand, but you should see, you should know it. So I was very happy when they were actually repeating the whole story for the kids. So. Ma'am, you have mentioned a lot about her association with Rabindranath Tagore in your book. And the Indo Irish connection goes back to Yeats and Tagore ties also. So Yeats was so vocal about his appreciation on Rabindranath Tagore. He even opened and went ahead and wrote a preface to Gitanjali. So, what do you think about this deep equation between them?
It's actually a fascinating story
Yes,
because,
please, ma'am.
yeah, because see, the Gitanjali consists of song poems, about a little more than 100,
Yeah.
written by Tagore in English. Again, this is something many people don't miss the point. He wrote them
Okay.
in English. A lot of people ask me that who translated Gitanjali? Gitanjali
Yeah.
was written by Tagore in English.
English.
And
Okay.
why did he write in English? And this is another interesting story because at
Okay.
one point of time he had been taken ill. He was
Okay.
recovering from a serious illness. And he
All
thought it
right.
was like a pastime. He even says it was like a schoolboy exercise to bring out
Mm-hmm.
his own poems in Bengali and sit and translate them into English. And that is what he was doing. And that was a pocket book that he had of translations, which he took with him to England. And even on the ship, he was doing this. Once he reached England, he shared this pocket book. After all, 103 song poems is a very slim volume. It was
Yeah.
not even published, it was just a manuscript. He shared
Okay.
with Yeats and the poet fraternity, and they were all delighted. And Tagore
Yes.
himself was a little taken aback. He had no idea that it would create such a stir. But it happened like magic. 1912, he went to England. And then
Yes.
Macmillan published it in a little slim volume. Before long, it was sent to the Nobel Committee to be considered for a Nobel Prize. And Tagore was not
Okay.
even there. He went off to America. And he came back to England for a little while. And then he
Okay.
came back to Shantiniketan and then he heard that he'd won the Nobel Prize. And this is interesting because most people who win the Nobel Prize, they win it at the culmination of a very good career, hard
Yeah.
work and so on. Rabindranath
Okay.
got it right at the beginning of a career when his career hadn't even taken off because
Take it off.
his
Yeah.
actual proficiency was in Bangla, which came
Yes.
later with all the volumes that he wrote and the songs and also his paintings. All of that came later. This was
Yes.
something which took him by surprise as well. Now you're asking for the Yeats and Tagore connection. Then why
Gee.
was Yeats so impressed? Now we are talking about the situation just before the First World War. England was also
Yes.
in that situation. There was anxiety and concern, and Tagore's poems have a spiritual content. It's
Hmm.
very soothing. It's like a
Hmm.
balm over hurt
Hmm.
mind. And that immediately attracted the poets of England and particularly Yeats. Why Yeats? Because Yeats was also at that time fighting for an Irish identity, the Home Rule
Hmm.
agitation.
Yes.
Tagore was fighting for a Bengali identity in the anti
Yes.
colonial, anti imperial agitation that was taking place. So there was an instant bonding. There was another
Connect. Yes.
bonding. Yeats was also very spiritual in his
Hmm.
thinking. He was
Hmm.
delving into Hinduism. In fact, he was in touch with a theosophist, Mohini Chatterjee, with whom he was looking into Hinduism. Tagore was
Okay.
into the Upanishads. So there was this interesting bonding. And so he was delighted to write the preface. But then I
Hmm.
must say that once the euphoria, and there was also euphoria about Tagore,
Yes.
this whole business of an, exotic Oriental, because he wore these long robes with his beard. He looked like
Yeah.
a little bit of a Jesus Christ.
Saint.
Uh,
Yes.
whatever. So there was that tremendous euphoria. But
Hmm.
once the euphoria died down,
Hmm.
then there was a moment of introspection. And even
Hmm.
Tagore wondered that, I mean, the English that I write is not my first language. And I must share with you what he wrote in a letter.
Yes,
He wrote it before he got
please.
the Nobel Prize. He writes to
Okay.
C.S. Andrews, and I find this because you see, Bengalis are very emotional. The Bengali
Yes,
language is rich in emotions. The British are restrained. They are not,
yes,
they don't come out with their emotions that much. So Tagore
yes.
writes, and I quote here, I found that I had to strip my Bengali verses of all their gaudy ornaments and to clothe them in the simplest English dress. This is,
Okay.
this is Gitanjali. And what will yet
Okay.
say? And yet said later on that actually he said it rather bluntly. He said Tagore's English was a foreigner's English. He also
Okay.
said, he also said, no Indian can really write English. He did say.
Oh,
Well, I guess,
that's
I
not
mean,
true.
English, well, I mean, English is not the monopoly of the English. So
Yeah.
English, Indian English, and today with writing in English and so on, English is a
Yeah.
universal language, and we all have
Yes.
our ways of expressing ourselves in English. So
Exactly. Yes.
anyway, this is the Yeats. They did have a lot of respect for each other till the very end, but
Yes.
that magic
I
was not over.
Yes, I read it somewhere that Yeats wrote some appreciable words about Tagore, and Tagore had to say this: "It is made clear by the phrase, even the mood by virtue of which he says, but the jewel that outshines the other jewels is his praise." So somewhere I just read that Tagore said this about the
Yeah,
praises
there was
by
deep
Yeats.
appreciation. There was deep appreciation. But I
Yes,
think we both agreed that English was not his chosen language.
the first language.
That is,
Yes.
that is true.
So,
So
ma'am,
he
talking
was
about
brilliant in English. Tagore
please.
has 4 huge volumes, the English writings of Rabindranath Tagore. He was tutored at home by English
Yes,
tutors. So all that is there.
yes, yes. In fact, he was. I read it in your book that he was quite upset with Nivedita on his first visit to her house, and he said that, "Oh my God, why would you teach English to our girls? I mean, what's
Yeah,
lacking? Why?
that
Who are
is
you?" So, ma'am,
right.
talking about Rabindranath Tagore, and I know that you sing so beautifully his poems and his songs. So, please, ma'am, if you could just recite some of his poems, because we're talking about him, and I really, really want to listen to
Well,
some of his
actually,
songs.
yeah. Well, actually, I've been singing Tagore from age 5,
All
and
right.
so Rabindra Sangeet is like a soul's companion, if you will. In all my travels abroad with my husband, he was a diplomat. That has been the one constant in my life. And today, when you were speaking about the lockdown situations and that we are able to enjoy nature for the first time, maybe in many years, a lot of people have found the time to appreciate the birds singing or to
Exactly.
appreciate the wonderful light of sunrise and sunset. So this is the
Exactly.
connect with nature that Tagore had. He found
Yes.
unity in nature. So I will just recite a few lines. This is my translation from a
Yeah.
song of Tagore, which is my all-time favorite. And in Bangla, you say Akash Bhara Shurjo Tara,
Okay.
Bisho Bhara Pran. And my translation is the sun and star studded skies, a world throbbing with life, in the midst of which have I found a place. In wonder thus does my song arise. The turbulence of eternal time, the ebb and flow that rocks the world, have sent a tidal surge coursing through my bloodstream. In wonder thus does my song arise.
Beautiful. Beautiful, ma'am. Beautiful. And the way you recite it, it's so beautiful. So, ma'am, was there anyone who was singing Rabindra Sangeet in your family, or was it important for you to learn it in the school? I mean, what was the inspiration behind it to learn
No,
Rabindra Sangeet from such a young age?
it was not new. Almost every household in
In where?
Calcutta,
Okay.
then and now, girls are
Wow.
encouraged to sing, to learn singing or dancing or the arts. It's a given. And in my time, learning Tagore's songs was the norm. That's what we all
Okay.
did. But in my case, I clung on to it. I never gave it up. And
So
it's, as
beautiful.
I said, continued with me all these years.
So beautiful. So, is it some particular time in a day that every day you have to sit and do your riyaz, and singing gives you, it's that, releasing emotional, it's a cathartic process for you that you have to sit and sing for some time every day. Is it like that with you?
Yeah, well, actually, Rabindra Sangeet, and I've written a book on Rabindra Sangeet, Tagore's, journey with music. Tagore's lyrics are as important as his music.
Music,
So
yes.
his lyrics are, he wrote for all emotions, for all seasons, and in the most lucid, beautiful language, which is, the language which is spoken today as well. It's not an archaic
Yes,
language. To understand that language, you don't have to consult a dictionary.
true.
So it's the lyrics of Tagore that make the songs come alive because he
Hmm.
married them with the music that he himself composed. So he was a one man composer of his music and
Wow,
his lyrics. So that makes
wow.
him quite unique. So you can really dip into Tagore's songs because he
Hmm.
wrote for all moods, for all emotions, for all seasons. And once
Yes.
you've sung those songs, then there is that catharsis, as you say. And I write in my own book on Tagore that for many Bengalis to this
Hmm.
day, whether in Bangladesh or whether in West Bengal, Tagore is a personal religion. Once,
Oh.
yes, once you got into his music,
Hmm.
in all occasions, on all occasions, death,
Hmm.
birth, something joyful, you
Hmm.
sing those songs and you feel a kind of deep peace within.
Hmm. Hmm. Ma'am, I was very intrigued when I was researching about your music, about your books. You have practically translated a lot of songs in poetry of Rabindra Sangeet, which is so good because we who don't know Bangla, I mean, we could also relate to those songs in poetry, which is uh, a big move. I mean, how were you inspired to do that? I mean, what was the intention behind it that I should do it in English language also, or it should have an outreach, or it should reach more people?
To tell you quite frankly, I got married quite early. I was 22 and I went off to the world. I went off to Brazil. That was our first posting. And in all our postings, wherever I sang, the audience was not necessarily, conversant with Bangla. So I found
Yes.
myself translating to them all the time.
Hmm.
And then it came to me so naturally that when I wrote my book and I translated the songs and I
Hmm.
shared with others, and they all felt that it was just, they appreciated it a lot. And so
Yes.
translation has become for me something that I really enjoy because I have come out of Kolkata after I got married and went out into the world. And the
Yes.
core was always with me. So even today, I translate not only his songs, but his essays, his letters. And I find a lot of joy in sharing this rich heritage that we've got, which
It is.
otherwise miss. Of course, a lot of people will say the translations do not do him justice. That's true.
Hmm.
But what
Hmm.
else? If you don't translate, then it's lost forever. So it's
Exactly.
translation that I and transcreation
Hmm.
that brings the message of Tagore to others who don't know the language, which I enjoy doing.
Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. And I really feel then it is indeed a religion to all of you, little girls who have grown up listening to him and his songs. So, ma'am, I'm really curious to hear more from you on his poems, his poetry, his songs. If you could recite few more for us, ma'am.
Oh, uh, well, I've got my book here, and maybe I can. Yeah, I can. Again, I can read to you my translation of a song. This is a
Okay.
song about mukti. You know the word mukti? Freedom.
Mukti. Yes.
Yeah,
Freedom. Yes.
because he really believed in the freedom of the human spirit. And I was privileged to sing this actually at St. Peter's when Mother
Wow.
Teresa had her beatification. And I was so
Wow.
privileged to sing this song in Bangla. But I will recite to you the translation that
Ma'am,
I
if you
did.
could sing also, if you could sing just two lines.
Today is my day when we were
Okay.
talking about technology, and to be quite
Yes.
honest, my all my CD albums are now in cyberspace. And as I tell
Okay.
my children and my grandchildren, that even when I'm gone, they can hear me. That's the wonderful thing
Exactly.
about technology. Um, this one says, Amar Mukti,
Hmm.
Aloe, Aloe. Aloe is light.
Okay.
So my freedom lies in the light of the skies.
Hmm.
My freedom lies in the dust of the earth, in the blades of grass. Beyond the pale of body and mind, I lose myself as my free spirit soars on the wings of music. I
Hmm.
discover my freedom in the minds of all, in the hard tasks they engage in, defying pain and danger. In the theater of the universal creator, I feel the burning anguish of sacrificial fires as I offer myself in the quest of freedom.
Beautiful. So beautiful. I mean, I was always a fan of Rabindra poetry and songs, but now I am sure I'm going to be indulging in your book about Rabindranath Tagore. I'm going to be just ordering that book right away. So
Because I've
beautiful, ma'am.
translated about 50 songs, which are there in
Okay,
the book. And
great.
this particular song is also in my CD album, which is on Ghana.com. And
All
I've
right,
translated, yes. So,
great.
so enjoy. I'd be
That's
happy
great.
to find yet another convert to Robindra Shungi.
Yes, you have really. And ma'am, we women really wear a lot of hats and lot of roles we play in a day. So you have had lot many feathers in your cap all your life, all through your life. So how did you manage? How did you balance all the roles so well? I mean, you're a mother, a wife, a writer, a singer. I mean, how do you do that? So I would
Well, I
like
think
to know more.
women intrinsically have this multitasking ability. I think all women
Yes,
have it. I'm
true.
sure you do the same. My daughter-in-law is another one I see with my own eyes, multitasking and being actually myriad-minded. We have so many facets to us. So I
Yes,
think it's again coming back to what you started: the mother's courage and the hero's will. I think we all have
exactly.
that.
Exactly. And ma'am, did you also have like me myself, if I talk about myself, I always have this 1% of guilt in my heart somewhere. If I'm working, if I'm writing, I would always worry about my children downstairs. Or if, I'm with them, I would always worry about, oh my God, I have to still go up in my studio and do this, do that. So that, that level of perfection in life we never achieve, but we always strive for it. Do you also go through those mixed emotions?
Of course, it's very human. But I try to
Yes.
my focus, because
Yes.
this focus is important. Because even in the foreign service life that I've had, I've, for
Hmm.
example, balanced my PhD thesis over 3 continents because it's not easy to be focused on something like that. But I think focus and concentration is important, but not
Hmm.
disregarding all the other priorities in one's life. That is a balance.
Yes.
So ultimately, it's a balance that Gautam Buddha spoke about.
Yes. So I'm not going to let you go before I read these few lines from your book. I'm so sorry, my light is just give me a second, ma'am. Yeah. So this Nivedita wrote when she set sail from America for the last time, in the east and in the west, in the north and in south. Let all things that are without enemies, without obstacles, having no sorrow and attaining cheerfulness, move forward freely, each in his own path. This is so beautifully written, ma'am. And may the writer and singer in you always keep on enriching us with your beautiful books and your songs. And this 30, 35 minutes was not enough for me. So I'm going to have another session with you very soon. But thank you so much for coming and accepting our invite. And thank you so much, Chandigarh Literary Society, for inviting us to have this talk. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
ma'am.
Thank you so much. It's given me great pleasure to have this
Yes.
wonderful chat with you. Thank you.
See you really soon, ma'am. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you.
Thank